So welcome back to another episode, and I had to bring Rob back on to talk about the 30th anniversary of the PlayStation 1. I can't believe it. I know we always say this. We're at another milestone anniversary. I'll ask you guys, do you have any memories of picking up the PlayStation 1 for the very first time? What are some of the games you got? Let us know down below.
Let's move out.
And Jess, how do you feel? I know we're starting to feel like Matt Damon in that movie where we just started getting older, right? You know, as we look back, yeah.
Here's what's scary for me. When I first got my PS1, I was dating someone at the time who was 26,
Right.
and I was young.
How old were you?
19.
Okay.
Ooh. And at the time I was like, wow, 26, like all grown up. It's such a big, important age and year, right? At the time as a 19-year-old.
Yeah.
And now I'm going, the PlayStation is older than the person I was dating.
Yeah.
When it came out.
If you want to look at it that way.
So for me, just for my brain, I don't know why the math goes weird in my head like that I'm just like, that is I can't believe
I know.
It's 30 years ago, yet it feels like it might have been like a couple months.
Yeah, and the reason why we wanted to talk about it is this was our golden era of hanging out and playing video games. It really, really was. This is
yes.
our time.
Come on, guys. This is our time.
This is
Absolutely.
our time right here.
Our time down here.
Yeah.
Down here, it's our time.
There's our Goonies reference for the day.
Down here, it's our time. It's our time down here.
But no, we wanted to sit and talk about some of our memories, picking it up, and what we got at launch, and what we thought of it overall.
But enough talk! How about you?
Let's start with you, because I don't think you've ever talked about when you got the PlayStation 1, because me and you were friends.
Yeah.
We were hanging out.
Yeah.
I think I met you when I was about 23 years old.
I was 19.
You were 19?
Yep.
Just as the PlayStation 1 was coming out.
Yes, that's right.
Absolutely. So, what was your story?
For me, the first few times I saw it were those demo kiosks they would have at like Toys R Us, and it was specifically a Toys R Us in Metrotown.
Right.
And I remember seeing the demo kiosk, and at the time, of course, I'm super Nintendo fanatic.
Right.
Right? Sega is there, and I'm like, Nintendo, Sega, that's the deal. And I saw this demo, and I looked at it, and I thought, Sony.
I know.
And then I looked at the game, and it was Battle Arena Toshinden. I remember that. I will never forget. That was their demo game on it. And I looked at the graphics, and I'm going, I'm used to beautiful sprite-based, and at this point, the Super Nintendo and the Genesis are creating gorgeous sprite art.
And TurboGrafx.
TurboGrafx left them in the dust, but nobody had heard of it at the time.
Well, it hadn't left them in the dust, but it was just another one.
Just such beautiful imagery in 2D and pixels. And then I see this 3D, and I mean, let's be honest, the very first round of PS1 3D was a little janky, and I was looking at it kind
But
of going,
still, it was pretty amazing for the time.
it was funny. For me, I didn't like it.
Oh,
the
wow.
very first time I saw it, I was like, oh,
Yeah,
no,
no,
this isn't gaming. This is some new fad that
Oh
some
my
people
gosh.
might like, but this isn't for me. And I didn't even try the demo. I was just like, no. I'm a comfort guy. I want my comfort session.
Yeah.
Song. Years later, when we started hanging out, and we were reading Game Fan magazine, and I started to see more and more of these games. Also, remember, I wasn't an RPG guy.
Oh, that's true.
Which was one of the
He was
most...
an action guy.
I was an action platformer shoot 'em up guy, and that was it. I didn't have the attention span,
Right.
or the understanding or appreciation for RPGs.
Yeah, you played a few of them, but it wasn't really your thing.
So I'm looking at this PlayStation, there's a ton of RPGs, and I don't really, that's not my thing. I mean, there's some action games, that's alright. But Final Fantasy VII, looking at those pages in Game Fan.
When it was announced that it was coming.
Day after day.
Yeah, and it was coming to a PlayStation
Yes.
and not a Nintendo.
So I remember. Oh, okay. So I'm gonna open this can of worms. I remember when that got announced because Final Fantasy VII was being developed on the N64. The Ultra 64. And why would they change that name?
Only on Nintendo Ultra 64.
Do you remember there was at least one screenshot of the in development Final Fantasy VII for the Ultra 64
Yes, I
that
remember.
showed up in Game Fan?
Yep.
And I remember seeing that and being like, hey, this is really cool. And I've gone back and looked at it a few times and just remembered and thought what could have been. But I don't think if that had gone on the Ultra 64, I don't think the game industry would be what it is today. The restriction on size that a cartridge could hold, whereas the CDs could do so much more.
So much more.
And have the like actual like CD quality music that Square kind of gonna go on that, and all of a sudden the whole gaming world, that was the first step that turned the world upside down.
And just before that, do you know about the fallout between Nintendo
Yes.
and the
Oh,
PlayStation?
yes, of course, yes.
So the reason why the PlayStation even exists is because PlayStation was developing a CD-ROM for the Super Nintendo,
Yeah.
and then there was a falling out. I think Nintendo went to Philips or something like that. Sony was left hanging and said,
Yeah.
what are we gonna do? Hey, why don't we make our own console?
プレイステーション
And I think the industry was like, Sony, this isn't gonna work.
Yeah,
It's gonna be another like CDI or something like that. It's gonna be something like that. Nobody's gonna care. But then they secured a couple of big titles. Final Fantasy VII, when Square said they were doing that. That was
clincher.
That's what made me kind of go like this. What?
Yeah.
Oh, I gotta take this seriously. This is serious. And then I was like, this is the next generation. This is big. So let's go back to your story.
Yes.
About getting your PlayStation.
Yeah, it was after we had started hanging out and seeing the games that were coming now, and seeing and appreciating, because Final Fantasy VII really helped me appreciate the RPG genre, playing through it with you.
Right.
That was the one that really, and then I said, well, I've got to get one of these.
Yes.
Like now, and then I remember also Castlevania Symphony of the
Oh,
Night.
yes.
Because that
for
was
that.
my 2D pixel art.
Yeah.
And I had never seen anything like that.
Well, it was taking like that 16-bit look, putting it on a 32-bit console with that music, but the gameplay, and it just felt bigger.
That game was what I was pretty much buying the console for at that point, which was many years later.
No! It cannot be!
At the time, I was also, again, with someone who, not as much of a gamer, but I knew had played Frogger in the arcade days, and was a fan of it. So before I even owned
I remember
the console,
I remember this girlfriend of yours.
the mockery I experienced for purchasing this as my first PlayStation game before I even owned the console. Frogger. Honestly, I still to this day, I was trying to include someone in my passions and my hobbies. I don't think she really understood the importance of it to me, and I don't think I was very good at expressing it. I was young.
I was like, this is amazing. Yeah.
And so there was a little bit of kind of a friction on it, but like for me, it was. I mean, there was no question.
Right.
At that point, once we had gotten to where I had seen what it could do, I had played it with you because you had one before me.
Yes.
That I was like, okay, there's no way I can live without this thing.
I got mine a year after it launched here. It launched here, I think, like 1995. I got mine in like 1996, and I got it for one particular game that my PlayStation is sitting on, and that was for Suikoden, right here. This was a huge RPG by Konami.
Oh yeah.
And I remember seeing the screenshots, and also, I know, we talked about our Beyond the Beyond story. We're not going to go through that again. There's like games like Beyond the Beyond on it. So there was a bunch of role-playing games with the promise of Final Fantasy VII coming. So I bought a used, I didn't even have any money back then. I bought a used PlayStation, this one right here, and Suikoden. And that was a big purchase, and I remember coming home back then, and these was during my party days of going out and drinking all the time and all that.
Yeah.
But I remember coming home from the bar, always playing Suikoden, and I call it Suikoden back then. It was like, this is great stuff. And then I had a big list. I made a big list back then of all the games I wanted to get, and this game would become Rob and our life. Because we weren't working or doing anything, we were just bums back then. And that was for Street Fighter Alpha 2. I picked this up. I was a big fan of Street Fighter. I liked Alpha 1 in the arcade.
Yeah.
But Alpha 2, I was like, I need to have this at home. And when I got this game, I couldn't believe how fantastic it was.
Right?
On the PlayStation. The load times are insane.
Yes. Oh, get comfy.
Yeah, but me and you would just trash talk in between that.
Oh gosh.
But I taught you how to play Street Fighter with this.
Mostly you trash talking. I didn't have much trash talk about it.
Yeah, but to say this, I want to say this. I think on Street Fighter Alpha 2, thousands of hours.
Easily.
Not hundreds.
Easily.
Not
Easily
thousands.
thousands.
We played this for years. We didn't play it for like a week. We didn't play it for a month or 6 months or a year or 2 years. We played it for like 5 or 6 years.
Yes, and even after Alpha 3 came out, we would go back to this one.
Yeah, we played this one.
We liked this
We
one.
liked this one, particular one in general. It was just the way to go.
It just worked so well for us. Yeah, oh, by the way, that original PlayStation that I bought,
He's right here.
this is it. This is my first PlayStation.
I love it.
I walked into that store. Now, I bought this. You and Aaron, the Satan, were hanging out together.
Yeah.
I used to have a part-time job at a place called
You're
Lifestyle
crazy.
Cafe. And so I had saved up a bunch of my money. And then I went to the EB Games, and this one was, I'm pretty sure, the one at Oak Ridge Mall.
Right.
Because my buddies worked there.
Yeah.
And I bought this, and I bought a copy of Symphony of the Night and a memory card.
Wow, look at.
And I brought that home. Look at the games that are advertising on the back.
I know, it's really, really neat to see all of this. And all that. One thing I gotta ask you,
Yeah.
what did you think when you first saw the controller? Because we have to talk about the controller.
Okay, I'll be 100% frank.
Yeah.
I thought it was trash.
Yeah.
I thought the controller was trash.
I was thinking that too.
All four, the D-pad wasn't a plus, it was 4 separate little buttons.
I know.
And my thumb was just, yeah.
Yeah.
And then the button layout, there's 4 buttons, then there's 2 sets of triggers?
Yeah.
My brain just couldn't, it was pudding. My brain was...
How are we gonna play Street Fighter Alpha 2 with this D-pad? And the
Yeah.
proof was in the pudding. I started playing it and I was like, fireballs, no problem. One of my favorite controllers.
You taught me how to uppercut and fireball and even do some combos.
Yeah.
Over many patient hours of training someone who was not necessarily that adept. But,
Right.
man, no, that controller eventually became the most ergonomically comfortable controller.
Yes, absolutely.
It's
And then what happened after that was the explosion over the years because, we're skipping ahead to different things, but Final Fantasy VII came out.
Oh my God.
And we were looking forward to this game for years. You have no idea. You have no idea how much we were waiting for this
So
game.
beautiful.
So beautiful. When we got it, it was just like a game changer. And it was for the industry. All of a sudden, the industry, like for Sony, was pushing that game so hard. And everybody else is like,
This was the first game I remember seeing ads in buses and SkyTrains
Yeah.
and at bus stops for.
Yeah.
That was unheard of for video games back then.
The most anticipated epic adventure of the year will never come to a theater near you. Final Fantasy VII.
PlayStation.
Please
Yeah.
remember, this was back before people
For-
openly spoke about video games and talked about it that much.
Yeah,
This
for-
was pre...
especially
Yeah.
for a role-playing game. And I was playing like Final Fantasy on the Super Nintendo with Final Fantasy 2 and 3, which was 4 and 6.
Yeah.
And these were so underground. As mainstream as they were very underground. And so to get marketing for Final Fantasy 7 in this direction was unheard of.
Yeah.
And it ushered in a brand new era for RPGs. All of a sudden, we were getting Chrono Cross, and we were getting like the Parasite Eve series. I mean, oh my goodness. So many great games.
Wild Arms, which is one of my personal favorites.
One of our favorites, I know.
Adore that.
Love that one.
So good. We can go for days.
Final Fantasy 9, Final Fantasy 8. Oh, here's one for Rob. He loves it.
I do.
Alundra.
There-
It's got a
okay.
shiny cover. It won't be picked up.
This and Resident Evil 2 launched at almost the exact same time.
Yeah.
And I remember, because when they launched, I finished my shift at my part-time job.
Yeah.
Went to Oak Ridge, walked in, and they had one of those, remember those old gamer TVs that had the
Yeah,
little
we
doors?
talked about it on the
Yeah,
channel
so,
before.
and they had that set up, and I saw it, and I bought them both and
Yeah.
came to your house. What a legendary day. I played these two. I picked up both of these games on the same day.
What a day.
Literally walked into my house with these on the same day, just... Oh my God.
Yeah, that was working designs.
I miss them.
Yeah, this is a hard game too.
Oh, it was.
Yeah, it was
That
very-
final boss fight,
Yeah.
I was screaming.
Oh, yeah, but look at all the games we played.
Okay, and can I also
Grandia.
point out, Sega Saturn could have had this in North America.
We know.
I would have saved the machines, but that's such a great. Look at all these.
Look at all these games.
So,
Ace Combat and Xenogears. I mean, there's just too many. Oh,
Tobal,
yeah, there's a dungeon.
the dungeon adventure part.
Yeah, we just kind of we always used to joke. We used to just get drunk and just
Oh, yeah.
run in one. I don't even know what we were doing back then. What do you think? How was your experience with the PlayStation back then?
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Honestly, unbelievable. It was one of the most incredible times in gaming.
Yeah.
There were such big advances coming in such short periods of time.
I know.
Such a jump in graphics, a jump in gameplay quality, a jump in everything. It was so incredible. And we still had the Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
Kind of hitting the end of its run, looking towards the N64, jumping back in and stuff. And so it was such a strange time in gaming.
It
But
really was.
This revolutionized, to me,
Yeah.
the way gaming worked in every way.
Yeah, and I think it's because it was a brand new console, And so many RPGs, for me personally, so many RPGs and so many great action games. I mean, like...
That's the thing, is that it had something for literally everyone, including one of the most underrated games that still needs a third part, Capcom.
Yeah, oh, you're talking about Mega Man Legends going on here.
Those games were just such a revolution, too.
I even, I went away to Portland, the Portland Retro Gaming Expo, and I picked this up.
Oh, no way!
Yeah, Bushido Blade. And I was talking about it in an episode that me and you, we never owned this game back then. We had the demo, and me and you would play it over and over and over again.
And we laughed because we were used to fighting games where your life bar, you have to do combos and all these things. And in this game, literally, if you got the one right hit, it's dead.
Oh, I loved it. I loved getting this guy with that.
We used to laugh and trash talk.
Yeah, and it was so funny, even for like a demo, we enjoyed it so much. There were so many games that it didn't even bring down, like the Lunar series and Legend of Dragoon, and the list goes on and on and on. Like, and let us know what are some games that you really loved on the original PlayStation 1. Definitely tell us below, but I mean, it's kind of weird. Yes, we're talking about the Japanese launch of the machine 30 years ago. We got it a year later. But it's 30 years ago. It's crazy to think about.
And to be honest, what a 30 years. Sony, thank you for 30 years of some of the most amazing gaming memories and experiences we could have never even prayed to have.
When you think about, like, for me and Rob, this is our golden time.
Oh, yeah.
And, like, these are just video games. But for us, this was like a very special time in our lives.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it was like, we've had the PlayStation 3 and 4, and we've really enjoyed all of that. But this time, and maybe because we were just younger, but then again, it was the birth of so many franchises.
Oh, yes.
It's like playing Final Fantasy 9 for the first time, playing, Resident Evil 2 for the first time, Mega Man Legends. So look at all the games that came out in this machine.
Resident Evil, Dino Crisis, Parasite Eve.
I know.
You had Mega Man X4, Mega Man 8. You had
Xenogears again.
Einhander. What an amazing shooter out of nowhere.
I know.
Square Enix, the super RPG makers, made a side-scrolling shooter that I will hands down put up against anything else from that era.
Well, especially for the music.
Oh,
the music is god tier in Einhander.
All system go.
I mean, look at how many outright Hall of Fame classics all came out on this one console.
Just one console.
Insane.
And then, we were naughty and we got it modded and we got some copied games from Japan later on. But hey, you can't blame us.
That it gave us a chance to play a bunch of games we might never have experienced otherwise. Because let's face it, we were rich.
Yeah.
We didn't have a ton of money.
No, we had no money.
$5 a game I can do. Like $60 every time?
Yeah, and we would get a game every like 4 months if we were lucky and all of that. But I got so many treasured memories of playing these games, and we've talked about a lot of these games. I think I've talked about every game.
And our level of obsession over even when we got to the copied games, trying to make them look as authentic as we could, we would take our spare Game Fan magazines and stuff, and we'd like with X-Acto knives and cut and make collage covers to slip in the front and the back and cut text just perfectly to make sure it was a spine card.
Yeah, it really meant something to us. And
yes,
the PlayStation 1 era, when you look back, is like, it's so legendary that I have a hard time quantifying it now.
Yeah.
Even coming to this video, I feel, how could I ever do it justice? How could I ever talk the magic that it gave us? It's almost impossible to.
Well, I know, and I know a lot of people like to say that Nintendo has been the biggest contributor to the gaming sort of revolutions we've had, steps forward, and they have in a lot of cases. But honestly, Sony and what they did here made such a massive, almost quantum leap in gaming for us.
Oh my god.
That we couldn't even begin to, like, if you go from the day that we got it and started playing it to when we moved up to the PS2, how much just incredible.
I know.
Honestly, you can't even quantify.
Like people are always going, having the big, battles between Sony and Xbox and Nintendo.
Hey, plumber boy, mustache man, your worst nightmare has arrived.
I'm gonna have to ask you to leave.
We never had those battles.
No.
Not when we got into this era. But the one thing I do want to say is thank you for creating the PlayStation 1 and for all the publishers to make absolutely ambitious games like Xenogears on here and really go past their imaginations and dream a little bit bigger and create games that made us dream a little bit bigger too.
I do actually have to say, I think that was another thing about this. The hardware opening up, so much more room to work with, elbow room to program and play with. And this was, again, in a time before games had got so mainstream that the concern was consumer acceptance.
Yeah.
It was about doing new and strange things. So they really explored more game-wise in this era because there was no safety net.
Yeah.
You made something because you were passionate about it, not because you thought it would make money.
That's right.
And that's what gaming was about.
That's right, and I like that because you're absolutely true. Now they're like, how can we add more DLC onto our game, and
Exactly,
we'll
right.
just do a sequel to a sequel to a sequel to a sequel. Everything here was like almost pretty much original. Yes, we liked Resident Evil 2. Yes,
Yes.
it was a sequel, and we liked Resident Evil 3. And you know, for sure, and
Like Grandia, Monster Rancher, the idea of being able to take any CD in your home and create a creature you could train Pokemon battle style.
帰るわよ
Your whole CD collection is now, I mean, who would have thought of that?
Or hey, how about Final Fantasy Tactics? You know, that little game, nobody will ever play that. No,
Right?
This is like the most amazing game. I remember when I met you at a Burger King, and you went downtown, and I gave you my money, you picked it up for me.
Yeah.
And I remember we were sitting across from each other, and we didn't say anything, and he had this in a paper bag, and he just did this. He just slid it across the table to me, like we were doing some like drug deal or something, which is so funny. And I'm like, thank you. And I was like, yeah. And the rest is history, and the rest is history with the PlayStation 30th anniversary. Oh my god. Oh, I don't even want to be doing the 40th and 50th.
We're gonna do that. We're gonna.
Oh, like, I remember when I played Final Fantasy Tactics.
I remember the first time I saw a PlayStation, I thought it was a bazooka joke.
I almost fell over. Oh my god. So guys, we'll ask you, what do you think of the PlayStation 1? And what do you think of all of the games? Like, tell us some of your memories. Let us know down below. So anyways, guys, until next time.